out water notices before. But I think that it is critical that we don't drop a mission accomplished banner just yet, because the condition is still, as we've said it is, that it's not a matter of if these systems will fail again, but when these systems will fail again if we don't have permanent fixes in place. Our stopgap measures will not be sufficient. There are more repairs that are taking place on a permanent level than has happened before, but there is still a significant road ahead. And so for those that are carrying this story, I want to lift that up. For the residents of Jackson who have been enduring this challenge, I want to speak honestly to you, instead of providing some false hope that we are in the clear and that there are no more problems to contend with. We believe that if everyone stays together, if that we work on a common or on one sheet of music, then the likelihood that we can overcome these challenges is probably greater than it's ever been before. But the challenges still exist nonetheless, and so we need to communicate that. I want to take the opportunity to tell the men and women, both those who work for the city of Jackson and those who are visiting from other locations, how much we appreciate their work, how much gratitude we have for their willingness to offer their gifts and abilities to us. And as I've heard morale, as certain things have improved, has increased, I want to encourage them and let them know, at least from the city standpoint, we will continue to be working in conjunction with them, that we will be a part of the team, right, not only now, but moving forward. I want to speak to another issue that I think is important to lift up, and that is the issue of unity, not division. When we talk about the challenges that the residents are suffering from, I likened it to, the nation when we have political strife in the midst of a war. Typically, we understand that it is imperative that we put our political differences aside to contend with the challenge that we all face. And when we look at the lack of water in the city of Jackson, when we look at the humiliation that our residents have suffered from, I think that this is an important time to focus on that unity and not that division. That is why I have consistently avoided opportunities to take shots. That is why I have consistently spoken of that is not the priority of today. And that is what I want to communicate and reiterate again. I think that when residents are suffering at the hands of the challenges that we've seen, and they see us at a press conference together, and in that press conference we say that we're going to work together. We say that this is a unified effort, right? And not more than a week later, we're taking shots. Then what that fundamentally does to the residents of Jackson is that it leaves them less resolved or less confident that we're actually going to be able to fix these problems. And so that is why it is important that I remain, that our administration remains, that the city, that the state, that everyone who is putting their hands into the dirt to fix this problem remain focused on the problem itself and not our differences.
Exactly.
And so I want to speak to that. We will continue to work with a coalition of the willing. We will continue to work with all of those who are well-intentioned to serve the residents of Jackson. And we have to make certain that we understand that that is the primary focus at this time. And the residents don't really care about what we feel about each other when there's not water coming out the tap.
Exactly.
The residents don't really care, whether you're Democrat or Republican, when they have to interrupt their day
Amen.
in order to go get water, in order to serve their basic needs. And so I think that there's plenty of time to discuss the facts, to litigate our case, if you will. And I'm sure a lot of that is going to go on. But I want to return to the call of unity. I want to return to the call of us working in conjunction with each other and not taking those shots. I do believe that there are some matters that we do have to make clear so that people understand where their city has been and what efforts we have made. I know that a good part of this story or the narrative has been the lack of a plan for the city, right? People have asked questions. You, the media, have asked questions about that. And we've shared that we've had many, many plans. We shared where we're going. And I think it's imperative that we communicate that where we're going with our plan and who's at the table. And to that extent, I want to share a few materials with you so you know. And I know that you'll do your public records request, some things we can provide. The first document that I have is the city's commissioned strategic capital improvement plan. This informed the subsequent request for funding that you see at the water treatment facility. This was actually commissioned, I believe, somewhere around 2019, 2018, 2019. And you had AJA Management, Neil Schaefer, Soul Engineering, that went through an exhaustive list of all of the city's critical infrastructure needs at the water treatment facility, wastewater treatment facility, and the like. And so I want to first point to that. The next thing that informed a lot of the data and a lot of the information that we gave was what they called the SERP, right? The SERP is a list of critical repairs that the EPA has identified and a schedule of implementation. And so this came out of the agreed order of consent between the EPA and the city of Jackson. At the time that we reached this agreement, one of the things that we primarily lifted it up, and we've only been under this for, somewhere around the neighborhood of a year, right, is that we needed flexibility in terms of the implementation of the requirements in the SERP. And the reason we needed that is because we know better than anyone our circumstance and condition with the city. We know better than anybody our financial condition, and that is why from the very start we said that we needed flexibility in these timelines, and they assured us that they would provide that, right? The next thing is a plan that was submitted to the Hinds County Legislative Delegation. You will find a detailed PowerPoint that speaks to the needs, that outlines all of the repairs that were immediately identified in O.B. Curtis to the tune of $20 million just on this particular list. It talks about membrane resurfacing, HVAC systems, repair leaks at conventional filters. It talks about the pumps. It talks about many of the things that you have become familiar with over the last few days that we have acknowledged and have shared that needed to be done. And it also has a projected cost next to it. This was given to our delegation. In addition to that, we have about $15,600,000 that was given with JH Fuel, all a part of this same presentation that outlines what needs to be repaired and what the costs are. We've also given them a list of the water distribution system priorities. That means the pipes that are in each precinct across the city. For Precinct 1, the estimated cost was $11,300,000. For Precinct 2, about $300,000. For Precinct 3, $7,300,000. And for Precinct 4, approximately the same as Precinct 3. And so these are the things that we talked about. We also put in here things like our sewage system challenges that you're well aware of. And so I want to be clear that we have endeavored to communicate, right? Now, we are willing to accept that if the effort of communication that is asked for is not sufficient in order to meet those legislative requests, then we are malleable. We are able to be instructed of what is most helpful. In fact, when we presented that plan, one of the things that our legislators said is that, we need a better picture of what the city is giving towards its ARPA funds and what specifically are you asking of the state through it, right? So out of that same PowerPoint document, that more extensive document that I had, they asked for a one-pager, and so we provided a one-pager, right? That one-pager, and I wasn't clear, let's see the last document. This was provided after meeting about 4 times in between October of 2021 until December of 2021. And we met approximately 4 times over that span to sit down and meet and discuss what those priorities and requests were. And this is the one-pager that was asked for to make it easier to talk about those requests. The next thing is a letter that was written by me to the governor about our critical needs. And I'm going to take a moment to read this letter to you. And this came on the
governor
heels,
didn't care until it was on the national news.
Dealing with our freeze of 2020. Dear Governor Reeves, on February 12, 2021, I issued a proclamation declaring a civil emergency for the city of Jackson in anticipation of severe weather. As you are aware, the extreme weather conditions that occurred severely compromised our ability to produce and distribute water at our O.B. Curtis and field water treatment plants, depriving residents and businesses of water. 19 days later, we are still in recovery. We appreciate your deployment of the National Guard to assist in the distribution of non-potable water to Jackson residents. However, this disaster, along with the winter freeze of 2018, has emphasized the critical need for immediate repairs and improvements to our water distribution system. We can no longer afford to wait on funds to repair and improve our aging infrastructure. We need funding assistance from state and federal agencies now. Accordingly, I am requesting emergency funding from the state and federal government to make capital improvements necessary for the efficient operation of Jackson's water treatment plants and distribution network. These improvements are critical to the efforts to ensure that our residents and businesses are not deprived of clean water again. I have attached a list of needed improvements for our plant and distribution lines with an estimated cost of approximately $47 million. Your assistance in obtaining the funds to complete these projects will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your consideration. And as I said, well, first and foremost, this letter was CC'd to the Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker of the House, the Hinds County delegation, Congressman Benny Thompson, Senator Wicker, and Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. And then what followed is an exhaustive list of those repairs that were necessary. We've talked about the city and its plan for recruitment and recognizing that there is that short bench that I spoke to you about earlier when I said that you just don't have a lot of people who have the qualifications within the Jackson area, and those that do often work for private firms that it is difficult for us to compete with. And so we asked our our city engineer at the time to produce a recruitment and retention policy for our water treatment plants, which was passed by the council or was presented on the council agenda in November of 2021. And it talks about, steps and possible salary improvements to make ourselves more competitive. And we have worked to that effort. And then I also shared with you that we had some additional partners at the table. I talked about how the Kellogg Foundation was supporting us by paying for the support of the U.S. Water Alliance, and how they had a water engineer with, I think, more than 30 years of experience in water, and a team of engineers that were helping us prioritize what they saw as the immediate priorities of the plant, looking at all of the plans that I showed you, all of the lists that I showed you. And so here is a draft of their document going forward that talks about the various sites and issues that they have, that goes through and takes pictures of where these concerns are. I do want to make it clear that this is not a completed document, but it is the work that is underway and the fact that I told you that we would be sharing this with you. I can also share with you that we have added additional members to our team, or are adding. We're in the process of working with a third-party nonprofit to help fund their support, but we're looking at the expertise of another water engineer and people who have dealt with emergencies that are well known nationally. And I don't want to speak to them until that agreement is reached, but I will let you know that this is a well-informed, a well-experienced team, so that we make certain that the city of Jackson not only is asking for all of the things that we need. I told them that, we don't need the things that we asked for, we need the things that we want. We don't want to be funded for the things that we ask for. We want to be funded for the things that we need, whether we know to ask for it or not, right? And so this team helps support those requests, help give information to us. I want to have the benefit of a water engineer that as this work is going on, they can explain to a layperson what it is helping ultimately, and whether there are additional requests that we need to make. And so, I wanted to present that because there's been a lot of discussion about what we have and have not communicated. But like I said, I think that the thing that we should leave this discussion with is a resolve
move
to work
forward.
together.
Time to move forward.
Is a resolve that the people of Jackson are worthy
Exactly.
of our collaboration. The people of Jackson don't care about our differences. And it is important that we demonstrate love and do something that, quite honestly, so many administrations have failed to do over the time, whether you're talking about the city or the state. And that is to fix a problem that has been plaguing our residents for decades.
Decades.
I believe we can
Damn
do it.
shame.
And I stand ready to work with anybody willing to work with me.
Let's do it. Let's move forward.
With that, I'll open it up for any questions that you have. Yes, sir.
Mayor,